Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. My name is Juan Carlos Lopez. I'm coming to you from Mi'kma'ki, the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Uh, I'm at Acadia University, and I say this as my compromise to listen and learn. And a good colleague of mine also always says, we need to listen and listen and listen and listen some more. And when we're done listening, let's go and listen again and listen and listen and listen and learn, so that we can work towards decolonization. And in following the in following the Truth and Reconciliation Commission recommendations, I do this land acknowledgement, and as again my compromise to learn and move toward decolonization. I also want to acknowledge that in this area there have been also waves of people of African descent that have come to these lands, and the record is the oldest record in Nova Scotia is about 400 years old. And again, this is part of my compromise to listen and learn the truth so that we can move toward a better future for all of us. So with that, I would like to welcome you again to our Better Together session. Today we have two people from Bishops, and I'm gonna, so Bassam and AP, and I'm gonna just hand it to them, and I will let them do the introductions and whatnot. So welcome both.
Thank you so much, Juan Carlos. I'm Bassam Chiblak, and you are?
I'm AP Bergeron.
And we're so excited to have you here so we can talk to you about filmmaking as a model of EL reflection. AP, maybe we can take like 30 seconds or something like that just to talk about how we, came about working on something like this, because for us it was quite accidental from when we started working on this in the fall, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's I was a student here at Bishops and recently graduated, and then began working as a videographer on campus, and that position is basically through ITS, but I end up having kind of relationships with everyone on campus, making video content, helping mostly in pedagogical applications, but all kinds of different applications, promotion, that type of thing, continuing learning, that type of stuff. So yeah, meeting Bassam here was just kind of like we passed our paths crossed, and here in my studio space, and we really connected right off the bat, and we realized the power not only of our working collaboration, but also this studio space that happens to be my office here on campus, and it's just really jumped off since then. You're going to hear a lot more about that.
Yeah. And I'm the experiential learning coordinator in arts at Bishops, and so a lot of what I'm looking for in terms of recording has to do with recording experiential learning, which is when you put theory into practice and add a reflection component to it. So working with Alex was really neat because we got to film at different locations and then talk about what it's like to film someone who is in the process of learning as well. It got us very curious about the possibilities. So without further ado, let's start that slideshow.
Yeah, we're going to share our screen here. Just one moment. Here we go. All right. And let's begin. Fantastic.
So filmmaking as a model of EL reflection. The Grotto Industries part is, well, do you want to tell them about what the Grotto means?
Yeah, so here we're located in the studio basement of the Library Learning Commons here on Bishop's campus. It's a space dedicated to audio visual recording generally, but it has all kinds of applications, especially during COVID was used a lot for lecturing and that type of thing, but has since taken on new meaning, especially since I've come into the space. It's windowless and is in a basement, so it just kind of became referred to as the Grotto over time, and all the the magical properties that a grotto might have in the storytelling traditions.
The playfulness is definitely a key factor in why we call this place the Grotto. But before we continue, we'd like to also do our own land acknowledgement. Bishop's University is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Abenaki people. And likewise, in this land acknowledgement, we'd like to acknowledge film's troubled history of grossly misrepresenting Indigenous people across the world. We'd also like to acknowledge our education system's letting down of Indigenous people in Canada. Yet, when focalized from a decolonized lens, film and education, especially experiential education, are powerful and transformative tools, and we hope this presentation reveals that as well. So, you know, we have to also thank, you know, before we pursue. So, Alex, AP.
Yeah, we really want to thank Juan Carlos for allowing us to have this opportunity. It's just a really amazing forum, and I think that this kind of discussion is just hugely productive. And the fact that there is this Maple League, it's just like fantastic, and like speaks to the greater power of working together and having, and you know, that those are resources at our disposal. And I also really just want to thank Bassam, who really has spearheaded this entire thing and has taken me into the fold and given this position I have here a lot more meaning. And his friendship has also made my life more meaningful. So happy to be here with him, and happy you're all here as well.
Yeah,
Thanks.
this guy. And I'd also like to thank, you know, those who make experiential learning possible at Bishop's University. So professors, staff like AP. I mean, again, couldn't do it without you. And executive staff, external partners who allow our students to participate in all these fantastic opportunities. My EL colleagues, Kelly and Sandrine, much love to you. And most especially the students who just keep me energized, keep us going, and excited about new possibilities tied to experiential learning. And yeah, just a big thanks to the audience, everyone who's here, and for all of you who are EL champions that across the Maple League. I mean, you're doing some fantastic work, so keep it up, and yeah, much love to you as well. So about us, we kind of slowly worked our way up to this, but I don't know. I'll let you take it away a bit here.
Yeah, so it's really just been kind of like a very organic journey with Bassam and I working together in various capacities, creating EL materials using video, which we realized over time is just such a vital component to, you know, the way that we experience learning and pedagogy and media, and the way that, you know, it allows for this kind of like new dynamism of content creation and that type of thing. And so with Bassam coming into the Grotto space more and more over time, pretty much weekly sessions of us coming in here, brainstorming, working on various projects, and realizing all these like connections we have. And a big one is filmmaking and a love of cinema. And those kind of like that peripheral interest has kind of like worked its way more and more into our everyday working relationship. And we see many avenues through which to express experiential learning and experience yeah, new ways of learning through cinema. And so that's kind of what sparked this whole talk today. And it's, yeah, looking forward to talking more about that.
Yeah, and you know, when you sit with someone like AP, super bright, super engaging as an individual, who has a lot of similar ideas as to mine, you know, we kind of figured we need to have a mission. You know, we wanted to provide a service for the entire university that would allow for reflections to happen in such a way that professors' bandwidths wouldn't be taken up even more than they already are. And so we wanted to remove obstacles to EL essentially by maximizing the use of pedagogical tools and spaces. And we consider the studio itself a pedagogical tool, and not solely, you know, a tool for, how could we put it, like low-level videography that's purely based on just you know, promotions and things like that. We believe in the idea of filmmaking actually as an art, and we wanted to bring people together from across disciplines, as Alex was saying. I call him Alex. Sorry, I always call him Alex, but he's AP. Through a love of self-inquiry and film. So I just feel lucky to know AP. We get along really well, and this is, you know, allowing us to take care of a whole lot of people and learn from them while we're at it too. So just a great serendipitous meeting of minds.
Absolutely.
So we're going to have a case study for you today of our filmmaking activities, and it ties to the Business of Arts event, which happened at Mount Allison in October. I had the privilege of going to Mount Allison for this Business of Arts pitch competition, and it's an entrepreneurial arts and culture competition that happened, as I said, at Mount Allison, and it was organized by Charlene Kelly. The wonderful Charlene Kelly did some fantastic work. And I went there with 4 students and their professor, and the professor and I were facilitators, really. We weren't there to tell the students what to do. And so I'm going to identify some people here for you. We're going to look at the picture on the top left corner. Hopefully that's the same top left on your end. I don't know how the image works on your end of things, but we have, if you look at the top left picture, there's Oriana Bucher Sanchez, Matteo Caldolive, Esther Charon, their professor, Michael Rousseau or Michael Rousseau, there's me, and then there's Jamie Page or Jamie Paget, and we all went there together. They won the pitch competition, actually, and I was filming them for practically the entire time they were there. I got to watch them for about 72 hours straight, learning and adjusting to various types of obstacles. They got to meet with guest speakers. They went and did these workshops. And then finally, they did their pitch on the last day. And then we flew right out of Moncton Airport back to Montreal and then drove back from Montreal to Lennoxville. So it was a very rich experience for me, for them, and we got to know each other really well. And so their activity is the case study for the videos that we're going to show you today.
Mm-hmm.
So reflection as experience, and I think it's important to capture a student's take on why it's important to reflect on their learning. And so we're going to start with Oriana. Yeah, here we go.
How would you feel? We got to do this today. Like, did it change? Did it help you appreciate the 2 days we spent there at the Business of Arts event? Like, yeah. What do you think about the reflection?
I really like the reflection part because it's something that we don't get to do often in this kind of society that we're fast paced and we move on so quickly. And reflecting gives the opportunity to just sit, take a moment, and think about what you learned from a particular situation or experience. And in this case, it was a Business of the Art, and makes you reflect on every aspect that you lived and just rethink of the happy moments that you live with other people and with Esther. So I think, yes, it really helps us to reflect, and I like reflecting. It's kind of I do a lot of journaling and I journal about this experience, but this taking a moment to reflect on this experience 2 months later, it's great to just re-step into the experience and rethink about those moments in New Brunswick.
So what Oriana's talking about here is the fact that, whoops, sorry, you want to moving it to, yeah, there you go. So what Oriana is talking about, I think is really important, that students are looking for spaces to be able to go over what they've learned and share it with, really in communion with others. And have an opportunity to not only look at the past and live that past in the present, but also project where they might go with their learning in the future. And so students are really wanting that. Now, Oriana and the crew, they got to do reflections live when they were there in Mount Allison. I was constantly asking them about their experiences, from a cognitive, affective, and process perspective while we were there. But Alex and I, or AP and I, so sorry, AP, 2 months later, sat down with them again in AP's studio and kind of did a revisit of this occasion and did a very, very long reflection session that lasted about an hour and a half. So there's a value in that we want to share with you as we go through this presentation. So, to take it to a different perspective here, look at what Paulo Freire says in the Pedagogy of the Oppressed. He talks about two kinds of learning. Before we reach this particular quotation, he talks about learning as being top down, where, you know, the professor deposits information into the minds of those who are learning, and he kind of compares it to like the banking system, in fact, which I find very peculiar as a metaphor. And then he talks about the following. He says, "For apart from inquiry, apart from the praxis, individuals cannot be truly human. Knowledge emerges only through invention and reinvention, through the restless, impatient, continuing, hopeful inquiry human beings pursue in the world, and with each other." So learning is a ongoing process that's happening live, and it has to be intentional, and there has to be this pursuit of not only absorbing information from unilaterally in one direction, but he really talks about it in a kind of cycle, which I find very interesting, because experiential learning was only formalized in 1984, and this is someone who's talking about this in 1970, and I think what Paulo Freire is really saying is humans learn in a very specific way, and it clearly is at odds with the way we're being taught at universities. So it's a really powerful lead up to what experiential learning is all about. So what is experiential learning? I want us to have like a very basic definition of this so that we can carry on with this presentation. So for me, it's really simply put, it's real world applications of course content in which you put theory into practice while adding a reflection component that allows students to consider their learning journeys. And so you're probably, if you're familiar with EL, then you know that multi-sensory activities in the classroom could be experiential learning, that interactions with guest speakers could be experiential learning, that skills workshops are experiential learning, that internships, labs, performance-based learning, practical placements, service learning, applied research projects, campus entrepreneurship, incubators, case studies, co-ops, field experience, industry, and community research projects are also EL, and interactive simulations are also EL. So there's a lot there that you can do. For our case study, we're looking at an entrepreneurship type project combined with a field trip. So that's really neat. Now, what are reflections? So reflections encourage learners to articulate connections between their experience and the course content so that they can discern the kind of knowledge that they're acquiring, the skills that they're acquiring, and what their values are. I think this is really crucial. And reflections can't just be this journal that you ask students to do at the end of the semester. They have to be ongoing and iterative. They can't just be static. And finally, a reflection can come in so many forms. You know, you could talk about reflective writing, group discussions, portfolios and presentations, but reflections actually happening all the time. So I'll give you an example. If you're learning a musical instrument and you're playing it in such a way, and you're saying, gosh, this doesn't sound right, the emotions are wrong, and you're talking it over with your tutor, and your tutor says, well, why don't you play the C sharp like this? You know, that's a kind of reflection that's happening live and in the moment. So these things really matter because they force people to think about what happened, what they've done, what they might change, where they might go with their learning. And isn't that the whole point of learning, right? It's not about absorbing content. There's a whole form to it that I think experiential learning really privileges. So just to kind of walk you through something called Kolb's cycle, David Kolb is considered the person who coined, sorry, I said coined the term experiential learning in 1984. He talks about the cycle of, you know, concrete experience. So you do the activity itself, you reflect on it, you connect it to abstract concepts, and then you experiment and then start all over again. I don't believe the cycle is so neat. Frankly, it's an infographic that we've been using for 40 years. I don't think it's so neat because you could start off with a reflection, go into concrete experience, try some experimentation, go back to reflection, do some abstract conceptualization, go back to, you know, so it's not perfect in that regard, but these are definitely elements of what make experiential learning crucial and more organic in the way that we do actually learn as people. And finally, you know, when you talk about experiential learning, you talk about high impact practices, and that allows students to better absorb the material and use it in the future for something that will either benefit them or society as a whole. When the students and I went to Mount Allison, and when we worked with AP, I think what happened was strong relationships and partnerships occurred. So their network expanded. Their current knowledge and skills and use of tools improved, and they had a sense of how that evolution happened. Moreover, they were able to, the activity itself integrated community partners. So the judges and the guest speakers, a lot of them were local people from from in and around New Brunswick or the Maritimes. So that was really great in that regard. It led the students to shape their own experience and be partners in the design of the EL activity. They got to do iterative reflection, so ongoing reflecting with me, and eventually with AP, and with amongst themselves, frankly, too. And finally, this all aligned with the learning outcomes that were expected of such an event, which is to put the theory into practice. So what they were doing in their arts administration program, they actually got to test it out and see how it might fare in a new setting, in a new forum. So that's kind of it for my part of the presentation. For this early part of the presentation, I'm going to leave it to AP to talk to us about how this relates to filmmaking.
Thanks, Bassam. That was great. That was really, really nice. Wonderful to hear that guy speak. I kind of want to start off by giving a little bit personal context. I was a student here at Bishop's, recently graduated last spring, and I actually came to Bishop's as an arts administration student relating to our Business of the Arts case study today. But I discovered the art of filmmaking at Bishop's as a student, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, at a time where I felt like my previous creative output as a musician was being prevented due to the pandemic, and I had a great desire to experience something new and to learn it kind of in a very holistic, experiential way. So Bishop's facilitated that by allowing me to just have as much access to equipment for free as was necessary based on my interests, and I just went full on with that. I've made 3 films since I began a couple of years ago. I've had films in festivals. I've won some awards. It's still a very new thing to me, but it really, to me, it's kind of tied into my Bishop's experience. And now here I work as a filmmaker, videography on campus. So it really feels like, I'm kind of coming full circle, and the Bishop's has really just facilitated that. And so I see filmmaking as being this kind of as very much an experiential, educational pursuit in my own personal experience. And so I can just see it manifesting here in the Grotto with Bassam every day, and in manifesting in new ways. We've got a quote here from Agnes Varda. But yeah, what do you have to say about this quote, Bassam? You chose this one.
I did. I love the films of Agnès Varda or Agnes Varda because one of the things that I tell AP all the time is that Varda, when she's approaching her subjects, she treats them with such love, and she doesn't take on the auteur vibe, despite that charming little smirk that she has in this picture. She doesn't take on that auteur vibe of wanting to, focalize everything from her own lens. She really goes out and seeks out her subjects and gets to know them well, and then finds an appropriate way to film them that matches their personality or life situation. And so every time you make a film, you learn something. I don't know what it says here.
Yeah, read it. There we go.
You learn something. You approach other people's work, some landscape you never noticed before. It's like giving sudden life to what you see and capturing the beauty in it. And I think what we've been trying to do a lot is capture the beauty that stems from our students' learning process. There's something really, I would even use the word gorgeous, actually, as you see them emerge, thinking about, what they went through, where they want to go with that learning. There's just it's like seeing the light bulb, turn on, and capturing it through film is just really powerful. So that's why I selected that quotation there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get back to the presentation, I suppose. I guess we're getting kind of cut off here. But that's okay. Yeah, so it's just kind of like, what does filmmaking facilitate? What does video facilitate that is different from just like a traditional written response or a written essay? We see with the rise of ChatGPT and things like that, there's this pivoting towards, there's like alternatives to traditional essay writing, and potentially seeing the video essay or some kind of video response as being an alternative to that. And we've just kind of like seen that manifesting in a very organic way here in the Grotto, in our studio here, with just inviting students in, reflecting on their experience, and just kind of allowing the camera to run in a way, and seeing how that camera as an intervention, what that meant, how that manifests, how we see the studio kind of reflecting off the students, and what it manifests for them, what it means for them to be in a space like this, a space that, to be honest, is kind of underused on campus, and many of these students are really unaware of its existence. So we're just kind of like making it very open, opening it up as much as possible, not just to faculty, but to students as well, to use in whatever way they see fit. You know, we see like students very interested in creating podcasts, video podcasts, YouTube channels, that type of stuff. And it's just like that, this space is there for them. And I was a student here, and this was the kind of space that I needed access to and wanted to have access to. And I just think it's just a matter of like, you know, making it a space that they feel comfortable in, so comfortable that you can just kind of have them in once a week, start rolling a camera, and then once, you know, they get over this kind of like initial feeling of nervousness, that the camera can kind of create this, you know, a sense of confidence over time, even like this kind of like movie star effect, where, you know, like especially when we've noticed in group settings with 3 students maybe all speaking together, reflecting on experience they shared, it is this kind of dynamic you can't really like experience in just like a solo essay writing context. You know, it's just that they're bouncing off each other, their energy is playing, there's like these flows of like intensity, and then there's this calmness that kind of comes, and like, you know, if you just allow the camera to roll through that, and then you're able to like look back on it and see that there is this journey, there is this narrative within every interaction. Every interaction in the Grotto seems like it has its own narrative, and then we start to see, you know, through filmmaking, the power of storytelling, the power that stories have in our society. Stories are the storytelling guru, script writing guru Robert McKee describes stories as the currency of human contact. It's the way that we kind of like make sense of the world, a chaotic world where we're just trying to find order and like meaning in things. So we create this kind of like, there's these oral traditions of like, you know, expressing these like universal truths about the human experience through storytelling. And that's kind of, you know, it sounds a bit bold, you know, and we're just kind of like talking about like reflection videos here and EL, but I think it's worth seeing it in kind of through this lens of storytelling and the power of storytelling, something that resonates with everyone fundamentally, and almost like on a subconscious level. We take in stories every day, we're drawn to stories. We should kind of use this as a pedagogical push to like kind of motivate students to see things, that their own story, their own journey, as something meaningful that's worth reflecting on. It isn't just, you know, an everyday kind of experience. So anyway, all that to say, we got Ingmar Bergman here, and he's talking, you know, just discussing filmmaking as an art goes beyond ordinary consciousness. It goes straight to our emotions, deep into the twilight room of the soul. So that kind of plays into what we're talking about, in the sense that there is just something fundamental that, you know, filmmaking as an art form. And when we kind of invite people into that process, even if it's like in such an informal context, you know, it just like, it does have this emotional response, something that happens maybe on a fundamental subconscious level that might not necessarily always play out in other contexts. So yeah, we're kind of seeing that happen in real time here. Yeah, we just got a few quotes. We just keep kind of, well, yeah, we got quotes. You know, you gotta have a couple quotes here. What's this one say? Cinema, like no other art, widens and enhances and concentrates a person's experience. Not only enhances it, but makes it longer, significantly longer. That is the power of cinema. So yeah, this really relating to, you know, the concept of a reflection and the way that, how it operates within this kind of temporal sphere of like, maybe something's happening in the moment and we're filming that, but also we can invite them directly after to reflect on it. Then maybe even 2 months later, as we're in the video we showed earlier, something like the way that time plays on those memories and plays on that experience, and even just like, asking someone casually to return to a moment in the past is this kind of journey. And, it does, as Tarkovsky, the great Russian filmmaker, is saying here, it does widen and enhance, concentrates the person's experience when they're in the context of being filmed, but also watching cinema, watching themselves back, or watching a film or stories play out. It's really just kind of like we see these images on the screen, we see ourselves within those images, and that connection. Sometimes I think there's this disconnect in pedagogy where students aren't able to really see themselves within the content of what they're studying. Even if they're studying something they're really interested in, they're like, how does this really like pertain to me? And that's where I think this storytelling component, which is, I really do believe, a universal thing, it becomes really valuable. And I think it adds this kind of deeper gravity to things when you're studying. Yeah, great.
So I think, you really did cover like some of the points that we would be making concerning the affordances that camera and the studio can have on reflection. And I think, just to summarize maybe some of what you said, and what I find really fascinating is, this idea of reflection being literally happening, like through watching yourself, like that actual mirroring. Is something that you get to do quite literally when you have a camera. And I think it's really important because students that way get to fashion their identities, which is really crucial, actually. The self-awareness thing that we always want these students to tap into when they're doing an experiential learning project. I think the camera on its own or film as a medium on its own allows for that quite readily, right?
Absolutely.
And then the studio space, as AP was saying, it's a place of wonder and curiosity. It's actually, and it's great that it's bounded.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about this all the time. We're like, you enter it and it's different. I wish we could show you. We should send you some pictures afterwards. But there's all this equipment everywhere, like really fancy equipment that most people have never encountered in their lives. And so the students, before they even come into the studio, they're just like, what is this place? They walk through the door and then tell them, like, what do they do? They come up to you and ask you all these questions about, what's this camera do? What's that piece of equipment do? Oh, how's it? And they're factoring that in as how it's going to affect them as they're going to do the reflections. But at the same time, AP has these two chairs that look like that they're positioned together like this kind of late night talk show.
Panel show
vibes. There you go. And there is something about sitting at those two chairs, the way they're angled, the way it's all set up, that it goes straight into anyone's brain. I think any one of us would sit on those chairs and we'd go instantly into reflection mode. We would instantly become very introspective because that's what we associate with that configuration. So the studio spatially, I think, has all these little hints that tell you it is now time for me to talk about me, to tell you a story, just like AP was saying. And it's such a unique space. And so we have this space here at Bishop's, and I think other universities probably have similar type spaces, maybe not all of them, but we thought, gosh, this space should be in the mission of our institution, in service of our institution's mission, values, and vision for what education should be. It has to be that. And so I'm just grateful for someone like AP who opened it up to all the students and didn't make it just about, videography for the sake of videography and totally separate from this idea of learning and filmmaking. So, we talk about, when we talk about reflections, we talk about reflection prompts. And so we curated the questions that we would ask the students when they entered into AP Studio. And we broke them into 3 categories that are quite well known in reflection theory: cognitive, affective, and process reflections. And cognitive reflections have to do with, what skills am I learning? Where am I going with this information? Affective is the emotional, and process, it's what are the steps that I took? So we talk about these questions for reflection, these prompts, in a kind of 3-act structure. We notice that, maybe you want to take it away here, but we notice that when we have the students here, you can't just directly ask them a bold affective question. You can't come up to them and be like, what did you do wrong and how would you change it? You can't start with that, right? So the longer we ran the camera, the more comfort was established between us and the students. And so at first, what we focused on was, getting to know the students, right? And then
this it has this I don't know, we don't want to take the filmmaking metaphor so far, and yet it seems like it's kind of like a fun way of structuring these kind of interviews where the first act is very much just like setting up the narrative, allowing for this kind of like establishing of characters. So in the case study we're discussing today, we had the students all talk about each other, like what their impressions of one another and their group dynamic and how they work together. And it just created this kind of like sense of community, this really in a very comfortable and like jovial environment of like praise, a lot of praise, self-praise and praise, between them. And it was just like, all right, we're really getting to know these people. And it's easy. It kind of eases us in, much like the opening acts of a film or of any story. And this kind of 3-act structure ties into, Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Way and that type of thing, where we're talking like, it's just like this kind of universal, fundamental structure that resonates with people. And we don't need to like strictly stick to this 3-act structure, but we did see that there, with the way the prompts are formatted, that this actually is like a kind of meaningful structure.
It's like, it seems like it's partly ingrained in us. I think, I mean, if you think about it, beginning, middle, end, that whole idea, it just seemed very organic, right? When we were moving along, we weren't trying to rigidly do this, but it kind of helped inform the way we were going to approach the students, so that we weren't too confrontational with them at the beginning, and that we gave them a chance to really live out their experience in a full cycle arc kind of way,
Absolutely.
So maybe we can talk to you about show them the videos.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have some videos from the case study we've been describing, some from the actual event at Mount A itself directly after, and then some from within the grotto here. So you can kind of get a sense of the videos we've been making and that type of thing.
So the first video is of Oriana at Mount Allison after they'd won the pitch competition. And I think the key takeaway here is just the level of comfort that Oriana shows now, and after having been in front of a camera for quite some time, for 2 days. I was filming them, all the time, and asking them all these reflection questions throughout. And so this is just one of them, but I want to show you how comfortable Oriana is and how this is actually crucial to what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Bienvenue à TVA Nouvelle. No, it's not true. Okay, so the weekend is done. We're Sunday afternoon, almost 4 o'clock. How do I feel after winning this competition? I really feel relief and happy for the whole work that we've been putting from Friday till now. And I feel very proud of my team and proud of myself as well. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk. What else?
We're going to talk about.
She did.
So this is a great setup for 2 months later. And so I have actually even Estelle doing reflections. Their professor too. We got the professor to do the reflections with the students. So here you have Estelle, the professor, sitting with Oriana. And as AP was saying, the way we build up our reflections here at the grotto is we get people to recognize something powerful about the other person that they're sitting with. And we can go there because I know the people. I've sat with them long enough to realize that they really love each other. And this is a great way to get them talking about their project. So
in the US, which was quite something, quite an accomplishment.
Yeah.
She asks questions, she wants to do well. at the same time, she's so incredibly nice, she's joyful, she's positive as well. And I think that the background of diverse culture, you know, from South America to Montreal to I can't remember what, brings a kind of a mosaic of talents. I would say, no, yeah, no, Hannah is perfect. She's perfect.
So, Mariana, could you tell us about Esther?
Oh, about Esther.
Can I step out for a second?
Now you know how I feel. I feel Esther is a great mentor, and she's very nice, and she listens a lot to what people needs to say and their needs. And after, she always comes up with the best solution for them. I feel because of her kindness, she's very empathetic, and that brings the listening part of her when she speaks with other people, and she's always interested about everyone's life and makes everyone feel special. When you speak to someone, you always make them feel special and like, okay, I'm with you now and I'm listening to you. I don't care about anyone else, you.
Because you are special.
Yeah. No, but you do that with like everyone, and it's amazing because you make everyone feel special, and that's, and maybe it's the mother in you as well that brings
But
that.
I do love my students.
Yeah,
I do adore my
that's it.
students. They all have something in them. I know they all have a potential.
Yeah.
They all do. I love digging it up.
So I'm going to stop it here. And they said some very personal things to each other. And I don't expect this to be something that every professor shares with their student. But knowing that this professor and her students have this connection, I felt an imperative upon me to tap into that to get them to feel very comfortable about doing the reflections afterwards. So doing this sort of thing isn't for everyone. You have to gauge the connections that people have with each other, and you have to be very cognizant of what their affective level is. You know, we're dealing with 5 people who, for whatever reason, are very high energy, very affectionate. And so not going there would have been a big mistake on our part, you know. So you have to read the audience well and read your subject well as too. So that's really crucial. Yeah. Sorry, could you
Next one?
Yeah, next one. I always take over and I never know how to use the Mac.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just kind of have to see how, this is introducing these participants in such an interesting way, really seeing them kind of respond to the camera. Like there's kind of that shyness and they're kind of giggling about it. But then they are like, there's this confessional element too. And it's just like, interesting the way the camera coaxes that up. So this is another of the participants, Matteo, talking about his experience.
Well, I guess I came into that experience with not really a sense of like establishing myself as a role, but I had like some things I wanted to work on. Like through the Arts Fest, once again, I'm always going back to this, but like I took the role of like a leadership position. So I wanted to work on those skills. So I think I tried to like be more outgoing than I'm usually and like try to get everyone's opinion. And as Michael said, like I was really trying to be the glue that like sticks everyone together. So like getting everybody's ideas down. I really enjoyed like writing on the whiteboard, like getting everyone's idea and then like writing down what we were all agreeing on. I thought I really enjoyed doing that. So I'd say I really enjoyed collaborating a lot.
So yeah, Mateo's showing, you know, self-awareness and a kind of progression in his understanding of his role as a collaborator in an activity, but also he's setting himself up for a future activity. So he's talking about this becoming the art director of the Bishop's University Arts Festival that we have, and it's coming up in a month, I believe. So he's talking about how the experience at Mount A was something that he went into very intentionally in order to build certain skills, but also character traits that he thought might be useful for the type of work that he wants to pursue later in life. And so this again is like the building up, the setting up of our subjects' self-awareness, you know, throughout their own narrative arc, right? So
absolutely, yeah, their goals are being established. We see, you know, he's like projecting what he'd like to achieve and like what could come out of this experience. You know, there is this real projection happening at this point in the narrative in it. Yeah, it's just amazing to see like the way that it does kind of like break down into those. And I really do think we break our own personal stories down on an interesting level that way.
Yeah, and these are very much chronological, the way we've set them up.
Yeah.
So it's not like we doctored anything. This is actually the progression of how it was and the way we recorded it.
Yeah.
Maybe we move to the next one.
Yeah, sure.
So upon reviewing this experience, could you maybe describe to me an approach you could have taken differently? And like, let's challenge you a bit and say, I know you won, it was a blast, but looking back, like, is there something that you could have done slightly differently that you think would have even, I don't know, based on your goals and objectives, taking you closer to those goals and objectives? Or maybe, you know, you wanted to try something, you just didn't get to do it, really. And maybe talk about that.
That's a really,
That's a
really
good
nice
question.
Well, for me, something that I maybe would have liked to do more, or well, actually, I didn't really get to do it at all. It was to talk a bit more to you know, the professionals, the masters, if you want, that they brought in for the event. You know, I didn't really have a chance to speak with them a lot. Yeah, a little bit, yeah, to some of them, but not all of them. Especially with the very first discussion in the discussion panel, and that's, well, yeah, we got late because of circumstances, the plane and everything, the trip. But I mean, afterwards, you know, the other guy at D'Ambrosio, he was there. We had a nice chat with him, but then the others, they kind of went off. And so I would have liked to talk to them as well, you know, and maybe have a chat, and we never know what those kind of discussions can open up, you know, in terms of opportunities and stuff you can do. So that would have been quite cool.
Anyone else want to add anything?
I think like, well, it wasn't anyone's fault, but there wasn't as many other universities present like initially. So I feel like that could have been interesting because hearing their pitch, we might have like learned new ideas, see how they work. We could have networked too, you know, meeting people from other universities. So I think maybe that was kind of a missed chance for us. But I mean, I'm so happy with like how everything turned out.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that the if there's anything that which we would have done differently, it would have been what you guys talked about. I would have definitely loved to talk to these panels a bit more, and I mean, more universities, more people, more fun. So it would have been great. Well, arts admin itself is still only like starting as being recognized as an actual profession. Because I'm still trying to explain what I studied to my grandparents back home, honestly. But no, I don't know.
Did you talk to him about like what are some of the skills necessary to win a pitch competition now that you've done one?
So just
is
to just to explain that previous clip, so the three students are sitting there, and what's really neat is when one student doesn't know what to say, when you get flustered, you know, you're part of a team, so one person ends up leading. Usually Michael is very enthusiastic. He usually starts off first and kind of breaks the ice for everybody. But what we got out of this is that the students really value networking and meeting other people, and they didn't get to do this at the pitch competition itself maybe as much as they would have liked. And you know, they were speaking glowingly of this event for the whole time, that we needed to get them to think about like, hey, well, what else could have happened? But what I like about this particular conversation is that it forces them to think about, well, how does networking happen? Does it only happen at these types of events? Can you do network? Are you doing enough outside of these types of events to also meet people? And I think it's prepping them to move to that next step where they're initiating these opportunities for themselves. And so it was good to have them riff off of each other like this. But once they got challenged, I think with a hard question, my goal next was to move it into something more practical, you know, to kind of remove the edge off of a difficult question and move into something that they could talk about more pragmatically. So that was kind of the whole setup of that particular clip.
Yeah, absolutely. We got one more, maybe. Yeah, here we go.
I'm gonna ask you just a very basic question. So were the goals and objectives of the Business of the Arts event accomplish? It's a very big question. You could take it any way you like. What were your goals and objectives, and did you meet them when you went there? Start?
Yeah, I can start. I feel like personally, I feel like my objective was accomplished. I want to get out of my comfort zone, try new opportunities, new experiences. So in that way, it was like very much so accomplished. It was a great experience, and I would do it all over again for sure with these three as well. And for what we learned there, content wise, I also feel like it was accomplished in the sense there was a lot of like workshops. We met a lot of people through like networking events, especially the first guest speaker that we met that was like in charge of the scholarship was super interesting. I feel like a lot of what we learn we can apply after university and jobs. So yeah, I would say it was pretty much so accomplished. Yeah.
Yeah, so this kind of like acts as a bit of a conclusion to that video is in particular she's expressing looking back and seeing what was achieved and really like able to kind of like go through it, enumerate the kind of ways that she's benefited from this experience. This is very much kind of like this like looking back on the journey that's happened, and feels like there's this conclusion aspect, and that fits in through our prompts and this 3-act structure as well. So,
yeah, like to go back to what we said at the beginning, the important thing here is to create space for students to do this. And we're doing it quite literally. And then we're talking about reflection, and we're doing it quite literally with camera. It's interesting how these aren't just metaphors, right? Like that you can literally apply them for this particular kind of practice. So, just to kind of recap, we have over 3 hours of reflections, actually, like when I think about it,
from this one session.
From this one session. And then on top of it, what I recorded at Mount Allison, we have a whole bunch of reflections there. So what do we do with this much raw data, if you want to call it that? So our goal, I think, is to move to create this thing called the EL Reflection Lab. We see the potential of creating educational films like that are, and when we talk about films, we mean like films, documentaries on what learning is like, and how, where it can go, and what are some of the possibilities, and really get to know our subjects a bit better. I think one thing is that we don't want students to be bums in seats. We want students to be actually known for their first name as much as possible. We are at small institutions that promote themselves as being able to do this sort of thing, and we think this is going to augment that component of our missions, our shared missions across the Maple League. Likewise, I think do you want to add something for the EL Reflection Lab?
Yeah, I just think that it could be something that's student driven, that, creates this meaningful space that is open to students, where not only like this literal space where it's open to them, but like a space that they can inhabit in like a video or a documentary type film, where they feel empowered by their experience, their voice is heard, and that like student led power can then continue even beyond like my position or Bassam's position. We're just here as facilitators. I would love to see it as a lasting, meaningful thing that students carry forward. Even if I were to leave and go elsewhere, it would continue after me. And I feel like establishing the EL Reflection Lab as like an institution within the Bishop's community that is able to be, tapped into by professors. Often I think professors feel a little daunted by trying to incorporate new EL components. They only have so much bandwidth, and there's an established system that they're working within, and to ask them to go beyond that is often a little bit demanding, perhaps. So Bassam and I can act as the facilitators and take off the workload to facilitate that. It's just a matter of assigning a student to come into this space, and we can, obviously adjust the parameters based on what the needs of the course are and what the expectations of the professors are. We just want to create something like where everyone benefits in that way. And I think this is an interesting new avenue for it.
Yeah, for sure. And just one last point to add, just to, build off what you're saying. I think the more people involved in a student's learning, I think the more it creates a sense of value towards learning within the student that doesn't necessarily exist when they're doing something in a solitary setting. So there's this kind of level of appreciation towards the learning that happens that I think the EL Reflection Lab can really bring, just to build off of what AP is saying. So we're trying to, as much as our hearts are speaking like throughout all of this, through our passions and through what we've learned by just being around our students, we're really trying to provide a workable, practical solution for our institution so that experiential learning, which is at the top of the list in our strategic plan, becomes something that's actually viable and done in a way that follows best practices, and that's quite creative as well too. So all this to say, we hope you'll join us in this journey, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Really appreciate it. And thanks again to Juan Carlos and everyone for setting this up. It's fantastic. So happy
Thanks
to
to
be
you,
here.
Alex.
What a pleasure. Any questions?
We have a couple of minutes for questions. So if anyone has a question.
Yeah, sorry we spoke for so long. Yeah.
That was lovely.
Any questions?
Hello. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, hello.
Okay, perfect. My apologies. Sorry, I got the camera turned off. Yeah, I do have a question. As people from we had a lot of more knowledge and learning from many programs. What would you suggest to someone who is actually a young, promising filmmaker and producer within the show business itself?
Wow, I think like for me, I'm just still learning myself. It's all still fairly new to me, but I'd say, like really just know your interests, follow it to like the nth degree in terms of like, yeah, really push yourself to learn as much as you can and to just to observe, what materials, what films, what you love to see in film and see, just try and envision the ways that you can follow through with that. That's all I've ever done. And it'll like lend an authentic voice that is your own rather than trying to follow a formula, rather than try and, go with what is expected within an industry. What's really going to be interesting, at least in my opinion, will be your individual voice as a human being, because we all have something special to offer. And, your individual voice may not, pertain to everyone, but at least it'll be unique and not something that's just like a recycling of ideas, which is often what we see in current media, I would say. So yeah, just, pick up camera, shoot. I'm like, all the films I've made have been, have cost basically nothing to make. It's just a matter of the technology is so accessible, so affordable these days. The barriers are really not quite what they used to be. And I think everyone should feel empowered to just pick up a camera, make something happen. And I think that's part of the ethos of what we're doing here too. It's like all about facilitating students to do the work as well, to learn something about cinema and filmmaking as well in the process of all that, which is something we hadn't mentioned. So yeah, I would say just follow your passion, really, work hard, follow your passion. Yeah.
And do you think it would be possible for making any upcoming project? Like I have on my side that I'm still doing my research, just like for an example, yesterday I was watching the movie It Follows with the audio commentary, and I was taking notes. But do you think making a single project, actually produced here in Sherbrooke with drama and theater students from the University of Bishop and also the University of Sherbrooke, will be a possibility?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, that's what I've been doing. It's all been in the area. I've used drama students from Bishops in my films. Yeah, it's just really, like the sky's the limit. It's just like a matter of making it happen. I think, and every time I've approached someone to help out or be in one of my films, they've always been really a lot of like support and it's been well received. I think, I think Sherbrooke and the Eastern Townships is an amazing place to make films. And I've seen some incredible films that come out of this region And I really think there is a burgeoning community that's going to emerge more and more with time, and I'm excited to see where that goes. So yes, 100%. And let me know. I can try and help you out if you want to make something, for sure.
Absolutely. Trust me on that.
Yes, man. Fantastic.
Well, we are sitting at 101, so usually we turn on the cameras and we say, just as you at your own comfort, we just wave to the presenters, and we can stay a bit longer if anyone has a question. But being mindful of people's time, it is 101, so I will let you go. I'll stop the recording, and then we can hang out a little bit if you so desire. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thanks so much.